Так, коллеги, мы уже немножко перебираем по времени, но я думаю, что организаторы нас простят. У нас еще один доклад тоже новый, еще более новый для нас, как представляющих компании СНГ, различные телевизионные компании СНГ, производителя систем компрессии, транскодирования и кодирования видео. Компания называется Hiscale, и, насколько я понимаю, штаб-квартира у нее находится в Германии. Представляют ее Иржи Янига, извиняюсь, если неправильно произношу, и Кристоф Юркун. Доклад будет по-английски, так что давайте вспомним, так сказать, школьный курс или институтский английского, у кого какой был. So, colleagues, welcome to our meeting, and I'm passing table to you.
Thank you very much. So just only half a minute. I'm Jiri, and you pronounce my name very well.
Okay.
It was good. So maybe you know me from Chiron Higo. I left Chiron a couple of months ago, and I was thinking where to go. And Hiscale approached me. I didn't know because, as you mentioned, it's a small company. It's quite a new one. But when I saw the products and I saw that they have customers as Fox from US, France TV, all big German customers, it told me, yes, this is the company where I would like to work. And immediately, because I used to work a lot of in Russia, I started to speak with you guys, and I'm really happy that we can show you our solution, which is still not in Russia, but we are in touch with Match TV. We work with Okno TV, so we are slowly going to Russian countries as well. And today, my colleague Kристоф is going to do the first overview of our transcoding system, and also to mention our workflow management system. So thank you very much. Just you can get my contact here in TKT, or just ask us whatever question you have. I understand a bit Russian, just I do not speak.
Okay.
Kристоф.
Yes, okay, thank you. I also don't speak Russian, sorry for that. I will try to make it in slow English. Let me just share my screen real quick, and then we can get started. So just a few words about our company, and then we'll jump into what we do. So my name is Kristof Juurkun. I am head of product and pre-sales at Hiscale, as mentioned, software development company based in Germany. And we focus on building software solutions for the broadcast and media industry. We are around since 2014, and we're doing scalable media products. We have a couple of different product families that we support. The main topic today will be our transcoding product family. They're all called Flix. And we also have a workflow orchestration product, which is called Jobs. So for us, automation workflow orchestration is separate from the transcoding, because some customers only need this part, or others, they already have workflow engine, they only need the transcoding. So it's two different products in our case, but they of course go well together. Before we jump into the products, like Irji mentioned, we're a comparably new company based in Germany. So most of the logos from existing customers you see is German speaking market. So this is German public broadcasters, private broadcasters, telecommunication providers, production companies. But we also started last year to grow outside the German speaking market. So we have a big installation at Fox in the US. France TV is using our transcoding system around the world in I think 20 different facilities across the globe. And we're growing, as we usually mentioned as well, in the eastern part of Europe as well. So obviously, as we are a young company and we're not so very well known in the Russian area, why did we start this in the first place? So our background is we come from media asset management. So we have worked for Avato Systems. They're now also called Vidispine. So we're doing enterprise media asset management projects, which always involve transcoding. So we have worked in the past and integrated transcoders from other vendors. So we're familiar also with the process of customer projects when it comes to transcoding. And this is where we basically got started. When we were talking about enterprise customer projects, they were always struggling with how much do I need to purchase, how much licenses, how much hardware do I need to put in my data center to have enough resources in my worst case scenarios, but don't spend too much money. There's always a hard time balancing this. And at the time, everything was still on premise. Now it's 2021. Everyone could say you can solve this with cloud resources. You can basically you solve the scaling issues, but it also comes with downsides. Not everyone wants to go with cloud processing. It doesn't always make sense because you're dealing maybe with high bandwidth production content and it takes forever to transfer. It also involves quite some cost to transfer assets. And it also depends on what your transcoding requirements are, if it's actually feasible to do this in the cloud or not. So 6 years ago, this is where we started and said, for a customer, typical customers that we work with, the most beneficial way would be to have a hybrid system. And this is what got us started developing a product that is now called Flix, which we call an elastic transcoding cluster. So this is built from the ground up on cloud native technologies. So it's built in Docker, for example, for the deployment part. I've seen before in slides before we've seen Docker as well. So this makes it fairly platform independent. So you can deploy the system on standard hardware and server hardware in your data center. You can deploy it in virtual environments, and you can also deploy it in cloud environments. And with this, you can also build hybrid systems. So we have customers, they have this only on-premise. We have customers, they have it only in the cloud. And we have customers, they can build hybrid systems where they have system resources on-premise in their data center for their average use. And if they have a peak, for example, we have coming up Tokyo Olympic Games. This is for some of our customers a peak during their production because there is much more to transcode. The system can automatically, based on the system load, scale, for example, in a public cloud. So it can detect if there's a lot of things to do, and it will spin up a machine, deploy the containers, all automated, no manual interaction needed. And you can also spin them down if they're not needed anymore. What we do is we orchestrate the cloud platform or the platform the customer provides. We don't provide a cloud service that you pay and we host it somewhere. The customer brings in the hardware. This can be hardware or virtual environments or the cloud subscription. Of course, the solution in general takes care about managing all of the infrastructure and also all of the integration capabilities. So when we talk about the product as a transcoder, of course, it's built with a RESTful API interface for easy integration. There's existing integrations from companies like Avid or IBM. So this is already working integrated in various customer sites and projects. And before we look into the actual product, because transcoders, to be honest, it's hard to, everyone can say, I'm a little bit faster here and I'm a little bit better quality there. But obviously everyone needs to do the same sort of things. And I think what can be the difference is the way you can operate this and the way you can orchestrate these things. Before we look at this in a live demo, I just want to show you 2 more slides. What we actually address with our transcoding product, you could put into 4 different use cases. So we address what we call typical broadcast workflows, which is basically file transcoding use cases. So you get something in and you transcode it to your high-res formats, proxy low-res formats, and other things you might need to do in file-based workflows like concatenation, stitching of content, extraction of pieces of video, keyframe generation, and many more. Now, with the same transcoder, with the same containers deployed, basically, what you can also do, you can change from a file source to a live IP-based source, and then do what we call live ingest. So you can use, for example, SRT or transport streams or RTMP as a source from a live signal that you receive, and then with the same transcoder generate your high-res and proxy formats and then use them for editing, for example. This is a use case we have built with Al Jazeera, for example, where they receive an SRT feed from the United States and we spin up a machine in a cloud. In this case, it was Azure from Microsoft. We receive the SRT live signal, we record and generate in parallel a low resolution and a high resolution format, while the low resolution gets checked into the MAM immediately. It will also be available for high-res editing at the same time, so they can, while recording, start their journalist workflows. Also, with the same transcoder, we support video on demand workflows, basically APR encoding, so generation of different renditions for web delivery, where we include a packager to generate MPEG-, smooth, CMAF, and so on. But you can also generate FMP4, fragmented MP4s, and use an external packager. We can integrate with DRM systems and so on. The latest addition to the live product, transcoding products, is a live transcoder, and it's again the same transcoder that we deploy, different license, of course. We can do live encoding for event-based and 24/7 streaming, and I will show you what it looks like. And when I say we always deploy the same thing, this is what we deploy. So this is a transcoding pipeline, which I bet in 80% of the cases, maybe 90, looks the same for all of the transcoding vendors. So you have, at the beginning, when you do transcoding, you need to decode, you read in the frames, then you can do processing, like, manipulation of the images, putting an overlay on top, scaling, rotation. Also things like frame rate conversion. We work with a partner doing motion compensated frame rate conversion called InSync Technology from the UK. This is the Frameformer product that they call it, and this is doing high quality conversion, and it has been chosen for the Olympic Games by the German public broadcasters. They have tested 7, I think, different solutions for this. And they have chosen Flix with this Frameformer plugin to do the frame rate conversion for high quality conversions back and forth for Tokyo. This is available again for file encoding as well as live encoding, which is interesting because as a software-based product, we can instantly just spin up a machine with live frame rate conversion, which used to be really expensive hardware that you need to install physically. And with this, you can just spin up an instance with IP-based protocols, just receive something, transcode and do the frame rate conversion and put it back out. Then you do the encoding, actual transcoded or encoding to a certain format that you require, packaging if this is a VOD workflow, or the just simple delivery of a file somewhere. So again, this is not where you can be totally different when you're transcoding company. So everyone needs to stick with the latest trends and try to catch up with what is the current codecs, and there's new codecs coming up every now and then, and you need to adapt, and also need to adapt if something happens. There's new formats coming out. So when we deploy a container, this a transcoding container contains this pipeline. This is also what we license, and then we have the management application orchestrating all of this. So as a customer, you don't need to be aware of Docker containers and where they are. We built also the management application around this, and there's different ways you can purchase this. We call this Flix Solo. This is a deployment on one machine, standalone. You can just put it there for easier use cases or not so high workloads, or as a distributed system, a bigger system with multiple transcoding nodes, we call Flix Cluster. As I mentioned, this is also available as a live encoder, Flix Live, and a special edition called Frameformer Live for the motion compensated live frame rate conversion. And it's available in the same options as a solo product, one box deployment, as well as a clustered solution where you can dynamically scale and spin up machines. Now, this is all nice and seeing slides. You have all looked at various slides today already. Let's just look at what it actually looks like. So for everyone probably not seen this before, so we are based on deployed on Linux machines. So the Docker containers are deployed on Linux servers. We're looking at a fixed cluster system right now. We're looking at what we call the cluster view. And this is where you see your current system status. Now, my system here is configured. I have a backend management machine running user interface, RESTful API, and so on. And the green boxes we call a pool, and a pool is basically just configuration where you configure resources on the same location with the same hardware specifications. We support Intel as well as AMD. We also support GPU acceleration and other acceleration features like split and stitch, for example. Now, in my system, I have a hybrid configuration. I have a pool I called local, and I have two machines. I see some transcoding going on here. I also have a pool called cloud, nothing. So no machines attached means no cost at this stage. Now, if I go to the dashboard and I look at my current system usage, I see the blue line is active transcodes at this moment versus the red line, which is the queue, how much is in the queue. So I can, if I force the queue to go up, I'm using our REST API to insert new tasks. This could also be someone coming in, throwing in a lot of files from a hard drive. Now, a lot of transcoding requests means the queue goes up. What will my system do? There's a lot of jobs in waiting state. I also have a table view. I can filter, show me everything that's running, failed, etc. I can look at the details of a transcode. I could cancel it. I can download the log file, look at the logs. Now, I have a long queue, a long waiting list right now, and only have 2 machines on premise. My system will go ahead and it will fill up the resource it has. And in a minute, it will recognize that it's not enough, and it will start spinning up machines in the cloud. We'll come back at this maybe later, depending on how much time we have left. On the transcoding side, again, you configure what's typical for transcoders, things like what you want to do. So the profiles basically define what's the output, codec settings, audio channel mappings, container settings, etc. And then you configure what we call the template, which is what defines the entire, let's say, workflow, where you say, this is the profile I want to create, this is the target destination, this is the file name pattern, and here you can also then apply filters like cropping, scaling, overlays, subtitle insertion, and so on and so on. This is for file-based outputs. You do it like that. For VOD outputs, you also create a template, but you configure the renditions right in the template, because then you create your highest one and you basically just do duplicates of this and copy it, change the resolution, change the bitrate, and then you can generate your 10, 5, how many renditions you need for VOD. Same for audio, again, the filters, and then you choose how you want the output to be. Should it be a dash HLS or just transport stream? If you use the internal packager, let's say dash, then you choose destination storage, which renditions should go into the dash package, etc. Save it, and you can use it. You can use the system can start transcoding by watch folders, but again, you can also use the API. Looks fairly similar for the live product. Unfortunately, you see already alarming. My license expired on my demo system for my live product, which is unfortunate, but it's not so bad. It's just what you can see here. It looks similar. It also has a dark mode. So I know that I'm looking at the live one right now. So it's the same product, same deployment, different license, and then also different views. In my case, for a live product, I have a channel-based view where I see what's going on. And also the focus on the live product is a lot more on monitoring. So what happens if my SRT stream incoming dies? I can then switch to an alternative source. I can switch to a file loop playback, things like that. What happens if my frame rate changes, or the encoded frames per second is getting too low? I want to be notified. So all of our products can be integrated for monitoring with emails, SNMP, and also webhooks. So you can send a message into a Slack or Teams channel, for example, for monitoring purposes. As I mentioned before, our transcoder, when it comes to file transcoding, just the last bit here, because I'm not sure, but I think we're getting about the 20 minutes now. When it comes to file, you need to typically have some logic before you actually do the transcoding. So analyze the file and decide, what do I need to do? You maybe have already a media asset management with Workflow Engine. You can use this and then use Flix as the transcoder, or you can also choose Flix jobs, which is our orchestration tool, and build workflows that orchestrate your daily file-based operations. It comes with a BPMN-based workflow editor, which has integrations to standard products from the broadcast industry. So for quality control, Bayton, for example, different transcoders, different things, also notifications, and so on. What the difference is here compared to most solutions doing workflows is the capability of customizing this yourself. So this is a product, rather than, we don't want to spend 5 years with a customer to build workflows. Customer can get a training and can build the workflows themselves. They can even develop things themselves to integrate into other systems. So you can start by writing JavaScript code right from a workflow, to using command line tools. Anything you can do on a Linux terminal, you can do from a workflow. You can even, if you have developers, develop integrations with Java. So this is really highly customizable, and you're not, of course, we help customers when they do projects, and we also develop things for customers if it's required, but you're not bound to that. So you can also do it yourself, and that's the real focus here. So again, I was losing track of time a little bit. Not sure how much time we have left, if we have time left.
It's okay, no problem.
So we have, of course, done quite a few installations that we can, could show you sample things that we have done. For example, as I mentioned, now Flix is being used as a central transcoding hub for the German broadcasters for Tokyo content. So anything they retrieve from archive, or they need to convert to NTSC first before they can do the editing. And the other way around, anything they receive from Tokyo or from post-production, before it gets aired, they need to convert it to 25 frames, and all that is done by Flix. You can build many other applications, of course, as well. With combinations of jobs in Flix, for example, we have built a mobile ingest for a German public broadcaster. They have bought 40 iPhones for their journalists to shoot video, and they need an easy to use solution. So a journalist can upload the files and they will find them in their media asset management. And with iPhones, you can do a lot of different things. So it can be lots of different variants and videos that come out. So we've built a little UI. They can enter metadata, upload the files, but what's the actual magic is the jobs workflow gets triggered by the UI after an upload of one or multiple files. It will analyze all the files. It will detect if it needs to be rotated, or because it's a vertical video, for example, or something. Detects what needs to be done, does temporary transcoding, then actually starts the high-res transcoding for the house format, and does the check-in into the MAM while it's transcoding the high-res, so then that the journalists can look for the metadata they have entered on their mobile device, and then they can find it in their media asset management. So this is the quick version. Sounds pretty easy. In detail, there's lots of things you have to keep in mind, and just so this is two of the sample use cases we've done with a combination of our video orchestration products, which includes also things like analysis of files and integrates transcoders, and our transcoding application Flix, which again, in this case, for file transcode, but there's lots of other things you can do as well. So that's the quick version. Again, I'm losing track of time, so let me know if you have any questions.
We're ready for losing track of time, so no problem about that. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation, and I would say that the interface of your system is very, very impressive and feature-rich. I got a few questions, and maybe my colleagues will also have some. So using my moderator preference, I would start first with my questions. Would you put more light about input interfaces? Because any TV company will be interested if you support HDSDI, like if you can feed your system with cable, or in my case, I would be interested if you support SMPTE 2022 or maybe SMPTE 2110. What you could say about that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the live product is the newest addition to our transcoding portfolio, which actually has been released end of last year. We are 2 weeks away from the second major release, which is going to include things that customers have been asking for, like SCOTI 35 support, subtitle support. And now to your question for the in and outputs, we support as of now, IP-based protocols, like I mentioned, like transport stream, RTMP, RTP, SRT. We have started integration for 2 hardware vendors for SDI cards, which will not be in the next release in 2 weeks. So we couldn't finish everything at the same time. So it will be available in the next version, which will be sort of in the fall area, let's say, where typically IBC would have happened. Now IBC is a lot delayed, but so we will integrate SDI cards for SD, SDI, HD SDI, and in the same release, we will also have support for SMPTE 2110.
Okay.
And NDI is also something that we have integrated already, which is, again, this is going to be the sort of major input format release.
Yeah, I see. And maybe a REST protocol is also in your plans?
This is obviously, this is on our roadmap, and we look closely at what's going on there. I have to admit, I've heard a lot of talk about REST. I don't have met any customer yet that we talked to who actually uses this. So 2110 SDI is this, those two are and NDI, of course. These are the focus points. If you have time left, we will look at REST.
Okay. So as far as I heard from you, SCSI messages and subtitles and closed captioning are also in your roadmap. So they are not supported yet, but will be very soon, right?
It's we are building the release as we speak, so it will be available in 2 weeks. Yes.
Okay, cool. And what can you tell us about ways how to monitor your system using external monitoring software?
Yeah. So we have several ways of integrating into monitoring. We use a message bus solution, so anyone could integrate into the message bus layer. So listen to events that are thrown there. Of course, we have a RESTful API interface, which can be used for monitoring purposes. As I mentioned, we can, based on events that happen in the system that you can configure, you can actually send events or create events yourself, and then send emails or SNMP traps to external monitoring systems. And the way, because this is typically this is different from customer to customer, what they're focusing on. I'm not sure if you can switch back to my screen. I could potentially show this. So we call this alarming mechanism. So if you you can create alarms based on anything you can we have available. So based on hardware, for example, utilization, especially for live, if my CPU is at 99%, this could be a problem. But also on the sources or destinations. So let's say if my received bytes per second gets less than 10% average, so there's a drop that, compared to the average, I want to throw a medium level or high level error. I can send a custom message here, and then this alarm can be applied to any live channel. And when this alarm actually goes off, then you can have an event in your system, and this can then again trigger something like an SNMP trap or email, or you can actually integrate using the API or in the message bus and then poll these events yourself. Okay, it's cool. It's highly flexible. It requires some configuration, of course, but again, this is the different requirements for different customers, so we try to make it as flexible for everyone as possible.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Let me check with my colleagues if they have any questions. Коллеги, есть ли у вас вопросы компании Hiscale?
Hello, Christoph. My name is Ilya Doronин. I'm from Canada. Guten Tag. There are several German and Austrian and also Israeli companies who are working on a similar solutions. What are your advantages? What makes you different from the competitors? Maybe the products, maybe the industry segments. What makes you different?
To be honest, it depends on which of the products you're looking at. So there's
I'm talking about bit moving, TAC video systems, this kind of company.
Yeah. So again, so it's a general answer. We have many different competitors in different areas. So from file transcoding, this is a different market than, like you mentioned, bit moving. This is more towards cloud encoding. And for us, again, we see ourselves, we provide a solution where this is a solution the customer can own. He doesn't need to, so we also have, of course, subscription models, so you can go pay as you go, but it's more flexible in terms of deployment, so you can have it in your own hands where to run this, whereas Bitmovin, it's obviously in the cloud. It's more flexible also in terms of licensing as the competitor products, and yeah, this is where we see ourselves. It's highly integratable. It's a new way of doing this. This is not a legacy product that we have done 15 years ago and trying to push into the cloud. This has been built from the ground up. So obviously, if you only need cloud transcoding and if you're fine with H.264 output, you can find a long list of transcoders in the cloud who can do it. So in our case, what's the other thing? This is not an FFmpeg wrapped into a container. This is our own transcoder, where we work with codec developers that have dedicated resources for us, as well as native integrations. We have contracts with Avid or Apple, for example. So if you're using sort of someone like who pushes FFmpeg as the main transcoder, this can go to a certain level. This is fine. Especially with broadcast formats, we see there's always bits and pieces that need to be different, that need to be adapted. And typically it's really hard to do this in FFmpeg and find the right people who can do this. So this is also some advantage to some of these competitors just pushing a cloud service. We actually have the resources and the people who can change the transcoding pipeline and adapt if there's some changes needed.
Thank you very much for a great presentation and for the answer. Vielen Dank.
Thank you.
Коллеги, есть ли еще вопросы? Okay, Christoph, it seems that we have no more questions, at least at the moment. So hopefully everyone was able to remember the name of your company and have seen the contacts, so they will be able to ask all the questions directly to you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, and I can repeat that I'm very impressed with the user interface of your system.
Thank you.
Well, so we are pretty much over our time limit. And I need to switch back to Russian. Sorry. Коллеги, есть ли какие-то еще животрепещущие темы, которые мы могли бы обсудить за несколько минут, или мы сможем это сделать на нашей следующей встрече, как вы считаете? Похоже, что все уже хотят закончить мероприятие.
Скажите, у меня вопрос такой, на первый взгляд, может быть, странный. А пишет ли кто-нибудь кодеры под Эльбрус?
Вы имеете в виду Spark процессоры?
Да. Вопрос не праздный. У нас по он-премис решению нашему сейчас прямо несколько запросов. Там нужны транскодеры, и именно отечественное ПО только на Airbus, а ничего внятного на рынке мы пока не нашли.
Надир, можно я отвечу? У нас кодеры, они на самом деле, то есть это полностью наш весь исходный код. Мы его портировали на ARM, на MIPS, ну, естественно, X86. И так же самое, я думаю, они соберутся под Airbus, исходя из того тулчейна, под который там работают, насколько я знаю. Вы можете связаться со мной напрямую, ну, как-то найдете либо sales или карту.ру, и мы можем поговорить по этому поводу. То есть я не вижу каких-то сложностей, чтобы наши кодеры, наше решение запустилось на Airbus. Прямо. Да, Надир.
Да, спасибо за ответ, Николай. Попробуем, свяжемся.
Ну что ж, уважаемые коллеги, я еще хочу сделать маленький анонс следующего мероприятия. 20 июля в это же время, ну вот как и сегодня, планируется следующий круглый стол, который будет называться «Технологический обзор Евро-2020». Модератором будет Владимир Широков, генеральный продюсер телекомпании «Старт». Так что вы все приглашены и, в общем, приглашайте других коллег. Я думаю, что будет интересно. Вот. Большое спасибо всем участникам, большое спасибо всем зрителям, особенное спасибо организаторам. До новых встреч, будьте здоровы, увидимся в следующий раз.
Спасибо.
Всем до свидания.
Спасибо, коллеги.